All right, folks, we're here today to talk about the 13 fishing concept Z. There's a lot of videos going around YouTube about this, and the one I want to make is just one for real life. So this is not going to be a breakdown, tear down. We're not going to take it out to the field and cast it. Most of the things we're going to be looking at today are going to be the negative tackle warehouse reviews. So this video is in favor of Daiwa, so I am there is a bit of bias in this video, but I just want everybody to know my experience and the things people on TW are saying if you haven't bought one. So I chose to use my Daiwa Zillion TW. Both of these reels were bought with my own money. The Concept Z was actually a gift from my wife. A few things about the Concept Z, I will say at the gate, it is different. I don't want to say I don't like it or I do like it, but there is some things to get used to. The idea that when you make a cast, the spool is spinning on its own and doesn't have bearings rotating with it is something to think about and something to get used to. Myself, I am not a fan of fully centrifugal force reels for the braking system, but I do have a few loos. And I do have a few loos, and I think that's really, I got one Bass Pro qualifier over there. That's also got a magnet system, but we'll get to that. Like I said, we're not going to tear this thing down. We're just going to talk about a lot of the negative things you will read on Tackle Warehouse about it and things in real life. So the first one I want to talk about is the noise. So I got a few people saying on Tackle Warehouse, let's find one, that this thing is noisy. So Roy from Colorado says, I bought the Concept Z and I love that. I got this reel, the Concept Z. It's super noisy out of the box when you wind it. If you remove the spool and wind it, it chatters like crazy. I'm sending it back unused. I think I'm done with 13 fishing. So what he's saying is this handle, it is quite noisy. It kind of sounds geary when it's not under load, but I don't want to take that away from it. It's not a win or a make or break item for this reel if you're in the market for it. But just keep that in mind that this reel does make some noises that I'm particularly not used to. And I don't want to sit here and say that I got 30 stees on my rack and that's the only reel I use. I got a lot of Tatulas and a lot of Tatulas. I got one Zillion, and everything else is pretty much a Tatula for the most part. If it's not a spinning, if it's a casting reel. So let's move on to some of the more negative comments. Here we go. Troy from Lafayette, totally disappointed. The casting noise is ridiculous, and casting distance, I get more distance from my Concept Z. So I will say I do like the casting distance I get from my Z. A lot of times you really have to think about a cast, and the reason for that is that the spool is spinning independently on its own, not like the Zillion, which has bearings and the friction is shared to those bearings. When the Z spool is spinning, it's spinning on its own. Those CZBs are not moving, so the spool has its own set of friction and it's just rotating on the CZBs. So what I've noticed when I make a cast, I have to put more thought into it because I'm not really putting the effort to get the bait there more than I am of just thinking to myself, hey, I just really got to put the bait there. And if you got a Concept Z, you'll kind of know what I'm saying, because you'll backlash a lot when you first get this thing, because you think it's a normal reel, you go out and you boom, and like, man, do I got enough brakes on? You get it up to 6 and you're still backlashing. You don't have to use as much effort to make a cast for the fact that the spool is rotating on a stationary surface, the CZB bearings. Okay, so let's read a couple more negative reviews. So here's the one that I'm looking for. Here is Calvin from Lake Park, Georgia. For 200 bucks, this reel should be made with more quality. The handle had wiggle in it. No matter what you do to tighten the wiggle, it doesn't work. It seems like a very cheap reel, and if you're throwing things that are lightweight, you have better options in the $200 range, which is true. So the handle, let's talk about the handle. Personally, I don't like the way the handle looks. It's too thin, it feels cheap. I just don't like it. The knobs feel good, but there's play in the knobs. So a lot of left and right action going on there. So if we look at the Zillion, nothing. Left and right, you don't get anything. Also, he says there's a lot of play in the handle. So I would say probably about 80% of the people who you buy this reel are going to use it for bass fishing. And when you miss a fish, you get a bite, nibble, and you go to set the hook, miss it, and you reel back in. I've noticed that I kind of get a grinding noise sometime, and I thought it was because I got big hands and this reel is quite small in my hand. So I thought maybe just maybe I was depressing the release button just a little bit, and that was causing a noise. But I still haven't figured out why it makes that noise when you reel it fast under no load, when you're just reeling in your bait back in. So also with this play in the handle, another thing about that I don't like is that you spend this much money on the reel and you get that. I don't like that at all. That is too much play for $200. I mean, just listen to it. So we'll pick up the Zillion. We'll give that a shot with the. We'll give that a shot. Nothing. It won't move. It won't move. So let's keep looking at these comments. The reel performed best with the brake set on 3 while throwing a 1/8 ounce worm setup. Anything less and it's backlash city. I will say that user probably didn't give this reel a good enough shot with the whole backlash and setting the brakes. I mean, you can set it to 6, but if you put too much arm on this reel, it will backlash. So you really kind of got to get used to making a different kind of cast, using the rod to make the cast, not putting too much muscle in it, because you will backlash. So let's read a couple more negative comments. Here's a good one right here from Unknown. Honestly, this reel is not going to blow you away. It's just too overhyped at the moment. It is a nice reel and very comparable to the Concept A. This user has 3. I got the chance to take the Z to a cast a 3/8 ounce chatterbait and a 1/2 ounce lipless. I was not disappointed, nor was I knocked off my feet by its performance. So I'll stop right there. So I took this Concept Z and I took one of my Lew's Tournament Pro MBs out, and I had the Tournament Pro MB matched up on a 7.3 Ducket White Ice 2 rod with 15-pound Seaguar fluorocarbon, and I got 17-pound Seaguar fluorocarbon on this with a Dobbins 7.3 medium heavy casting rod. And I was throwing a 1/4 ounce jig head with a Cinco, just kind of rigged weedless, because I was doing what I call city fishing, just fishing in a little retention pond. There's a lot of trash in there, tires, branches, and I didn't want to get snagged. And the distance that Lew's got was very comparable to the Z. So you really got to ask yourself, you know, what did I spend $200 on? So here's my next issue with the Z, is that this reel, a lot of people will probably watch this video and say, oh, well, they didn't make the video, they didn't make this reel to bass fish, it's supposed to be saltwater trout, blah, blah. Okay, cool, but here's my rebuttal to that. Why do you need so many ports on this reel if it's so saltwater? Why don't you just spend that money on a Daiwa Coastal or Lew's Inshore? You got your normal port here that nobody uses to lubricate anything because we all take them apart to do it anyway. You got a port here, and you also have a port here, and these 3 little holes here, which I can only assume 2 holes, I can only assume go into the function of the reel. So with that, if this reel wanted to be so catered to the saltwater user, how come they didn't do a better job of sealing it? There's no special seals here. You pop your cap open, boom, you got guts. Nothing here like any other bait caster. So in defense of the Daiwa, so let's look at the Zillion. The back of it, you got one really small port, and that's it. Everything else is flush. Everything else is all the way around the reel. It's flush. There's nowhere else that has an exaggerated opening. Nowhere else. So my question to the people at Concept is, if this reel was designed to be so saltwater, why wasn't it designed better to not get water in it? So I have a Daiwa Lexa 300 that I was using off the pier for a while just to catch croaker, take my white fishing, and we did that for about 2 weeks heavy. And one day I decided to take it apart, and all in the operating gears was salt and just buildup. So I cleaned all of that out, and I just can't imagine how much salt intrusion the 13Z would get with so many open ports and so many lacks of proper seals to make it, you know, something different. So I'll wrap the video up. There's a few things you really got to consider when buying this reel: the price, and probably number one, the hype. There's a lot of hype behind this reel. I don't want to say I bought into it, but it is interesting to have something different. My buddy Scott over at Speed Spool Barons, if you check out his Instagram page, he shows you a reel from, I think, the 80s or 90s from Daiwa, who actually had the first edition bushings in a reel. It didn't have any bearings. That was their selling point for that reel, was the bushings. So jump on Instagram. It's a couple videos down. The video is kind of old, so you have to skim through some things. But check it out, and I hope this helps. If there are any other negative comments on Tackle Warehouse that you want me to show you on this reel, leave a comment below and let me know, and I'll be more than happy. If I get over 100 views on this, I'm going to do another video highlighting something positive. I decided to do something negative because I don't think there's enough negative in the fishing industry right now when it comes to social media. Everybody wants to say, oh, it's smooth as butter, it casts a mile, but what about the truth? What about the things people don't like? I don't see enough of that. So thank you, and happy fishing.